Okay, today I'm in Star Sports Mayfair office with Matt Gibson. Matt, you're a professional full-time trader and have been since 2015.
Yep.
And you're also the man behind the Hunting for Profit site, which we'll talk about later on. So you just tell us a bit about what it is you do.
So basically I trade on Betfair. I use software on Betfair, trading in play, horse racing. So I back and lay, or lay to back on the exchange, on the Betfair exchange, and I always hedge off for a profit, to make a profit.
Okay, so you don't have to be one of these fast finger clickers in the box on Corsa with a drone or anything like that?
No, not at all. I'm sat at home. I've got my own office at home. Basic computer, basic software, and I'm just clicking away on a mouse, making money in play that way.
Okay, right, so we'll talk about the nitty gritty of it in a bit, but you've mocked my card before we've done the interview.
Yeah.
And you started match betting.
Yeah.
In 2007. That's a dirty word for most of the bookmaking industry, but for those of us that don't know what is match bettors do, can you fill us in?
Yeah, so back then I didn't have a clue about trading or anything like that. I was a hopeless gambler, mug punter, whatever you want to call it, and I got into match betting through a friend at the time. And back then match betting was not as commonly known about as it is now. It was almost hush hush. There was one or two websites knocking around that gave you a basic understanding of it. The rest you had to work out yourself. But basically what it is you open up accounts with the bookies that offer free bets. You place a bet on a sporting event, and then you lay on the Betfair exchange, and you essentially lock in a profit using the free bet. So I'd done that on football mainly to start with, because it was just easier way the odds were, and then I realised as I progressed with it, I moved on doing it on racing. So I'd do it on 2 or 3 races in the early part of the day, and that's how I started to look at the Betfair exchange, and that's what sort of drew me in towards trading. But yeah, that's essentially what match betting is. It's locking in a profit. I do think that I was lucky in the sense that I caught the heydays of it, because it was really good back then. The offers were better. I think that a lot of bookmakers have tightened up on it since. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. Okay,
now there's my little niece she's at university and she does match betting to try and get a few quid.
Yeah.
And I've had a look into it because I wrote a blog about it. There's plenty of websites out there helping people that wish to dip their toe into match betting. Yeah. And I'm sure that Ben or any other bookmaker's not going to advocate it, but no, it's not illegal. Would you advise people to have a go at it these days?
I don't know is the answer to that. It's because I don't know how good it is now. I haven't looked at it for a long time. But if it's feasible and you can make some profit from it, why not? You know, it gets people into betting or trading eventually. It gets you looking at odds and understanding odds and how they work. So, yeah, why not? It makes you a few quid.
Well, it progressed you because you then started looking for, you started betting straight, assuming you might have been betting straight before, and following tipping services.
Yeah.
Looking for the holy grail.
Yeah.
Now, did you find it?
Not really, no. Not in terms of straight betting, no. I went round the houses with it, as a lot of people do, from my experience, from people I've met that ended up getting into trading. I subscribed to football services of people off Twitter, and I'm talking about subscribing to, like, crazy when I think back now how naive I was, but I'd signed up to somebody I'd never heard of. You know, I didn't even know who the person was behind the service. Football services, I signed up to racing services. I had a go at roulette, complete muggy thing to do. I remember one service I signed up to is like an automation service. So basically this guy would send me files each day, and I had to link them into the Betfair exchange. And then it was straight backing and laying on horses. I was down your way one summer. Took my family down to Devon and Cornwall for a holiday, and I remember firing up. I thought, well, I'm going to have to take my laptop away because I've got to do these every day. So I'd fire up the laptop. We'd go off to the beach for the day. I'd come back, and we'd laid 3 horses that AP McCoy had won on. So I'm like, you know, several £100 down after an expensive holiday in Cornwall that we paid for, and I'm like, bloody hell. But yeah, so I've tried. I've done. Like a lot of people, I've tried all different types of betting services, and no, they didn't work for me, and that's kind of what then drew me onto the betting exchange.
Okay, now you said that you had some dark days. I mean, I assume that coming back from the beach and finding out you'd done your cobblers was a dark day, but how dark did they get?
They got darker when I tried to conquer trading, and because I was so drawn into running on horses, I tried to trade all other sports. I've tried everything under the sun: football, cricket, tennis. I believe there's some good traders of them sports out there, but what lured me to, you know, I've tried everything. I've tried politics, all sorts of stuff, but what lured me to trading horse racing was you can trade it. There's horse racing on practically every day of the year, and it's on at a good time in the UK and Ireland. So that drew me towards it, and I was just fascinated how the odds would move, and so I just studied horse racing markets, thousands and thousands of markets. We're talking over a few years, and I was just drawn into it, and I just kept going back to it, and I had dark days trying to learn that, bust a few banks, you know, thinking I can jump on every front runner because it will come in 20 ticks. That isn't the case. The market's far more sophisticated than that. So yeah, it was tough to learn. It was tough to understand the market for a start, because I didn't have anybody. Although I've had help from people along the way in terms of mindset and how other people think, but the actual nitty-gritty of the in-play market is all self-taught. I've learnt it myself. So yeah, I've had some pretty ropey times, like I say, blown a few banks.
Okay, and what would you say for the most important lessons you learnt during that time to try and stop anybody watching us falling into the same pitfall?
Treat it like an apprenticeship. Treat it like a course, a long. It's like, you imagine if I said to you, if you'd never looked at a car engine before, and I threw you a handbook and said, Simon, read that book, come back to me. She'd come back to me, say, right, fix that engine. You might be able to do it a bit, but you wouldn't be. But you wouldn't be a perfectionist at it. It would take. So it takes time. Trading's a skill, really. So you have to. It takes time to learn it. You know, it's like learning to drive a car. That's to start with. You know, you're thinking, right, mirror, signal, manoeuvre. Once you've learnt to drive a car, a year, 2 years after, it just becomes second nature. So it's kind of the same thing. I think a lot of people, they get lured into it because they think, oh, can make shed loads of money here, and they want it. A lot of people, the society is today, they want it now, straight away, and it doesn't work like that. You can't just pick up a handbook or go on a course and then all of a sudden you're a profitable trader. You have to tap into your own mindset, and you have to find an edge that actually works. So my advice to people is to watch as many races, as many markets as you can, and treat it as an apprenticeship. Like I say, it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Okay, now you said you talked about the dark days, but you've obviously then you decided to really, really study what you were doing to understand it. So what motivated you to get to the bottom of it rather than thinking this is a mug's game, this betting lark?
I had a lot of stubbornness. I'm the type of person that I just never give up on something. That if I think there's something worth pursuing, and I did, I was adamant that, especially the in-play markets, I was adamant there was something worth pursuing here. So yeah, a lot of it's a bit of stubbornness, a bit of delusion, if you like. But yeah, you've just got to really want to. You've got to really want to do it, because when you're learning to do it, you're going to have days where you're going to lose. You're going to have days where you're going to struggle mentally, as well as with the actual physical edge side of things. So you've got to really, really want to crack it, and you've got to understand your own mindset and the way you tick. And all these components come together. It doesn't happen overnight. So you've like I say, you've just got to really want to do it, and treat it like a journey. Don't look at the end goal of making money. Focus on the now, the here and now.
Okay, now you went to the exchanges, obviously, but
Yeah.
was that of a necessity because all your accounts had been buggered up by the match betting?
Quite a few, yeah. It wasn't totally the case, because as I was going along doing match betting, I could have carried it on for a bit longer, but I always wanted to sort of be self-sufficient. So I was drawn into the exchanges because I wanted to be able to draw my own wage, if you like, and be self-sufficient for the exchanges. That's kind of what drew me into it. And actual straight betting, I didn't think that would be an avenue that I'd go down, really. I take my hat off to anybody that makes money from straight betting. I really do.
Okay, now it was 8 years of doing that.
Yeah.
Before you went full time, which obviously is a massive plunge for anybody.
Yeah.
Why did it take you 8 years?
What, to go in full time?
Yeah.
Just because it took me a few years to actually get into some sort of consistent profit, because I was learning it myself. It was all self-taught. A lot of that time, that 8 years though, the early days was just match betting. So I can't put a date on when I actually started to really trade, but I would say probably 1 to 2 years prior to going full time, I took trading a lot more seriously, and my focus was drilled into, right, I want to make, my ideal idea at the time was to go part-time at work and then trade part-time, but I was practically doing that anyway. So I was trading about 2 to 3 days a week. And yeah, so I went from match betting, purely match betting and mug punting, and it's kind of transitioned slowly over them 8 years. So I wasn't just trading for them 8 years before going full time. So I'd say it was probably a couple of years before I went full time, really, that I took it really seriously. Okay,
and you said to me that you eventually found a way of working out a way of reading the market to make a profit. Now, is that an extremely simplified one sentence description, or was there blimey, this is it, what you found?
Yeah, you have a few light bulb moments. It's just studying the market and understanding why odds come in and why they move out, and like I say, that was through watching thousands and thousands of markets. But there was, like I say, there's a few different light bulb moments along the way. So it wasn't one particular moment where I thought, bingo, I've cracked this. But it was a gradual progression over a period of time. Come to sort of going towards when I actually went full time, I was making sort of some consistency there at that point.
Okay, you say you're trading in running.
Yeah.
Strictly speaking, you're anticipating what's going to happen in running without actually having to even watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your strategy. Is it national hunt and flat?
Yeah, trade both national hunt and flat in the UK and Ireland. I'll trade parts of the all weather, and yeah, just UK and Ireland. Don't trade anywhere else.